They can hear me, but can they hear you?
Hello, everybody. I'm not gonna do the same thing twice, but my name's Jack.
And I am the Prince of all hacks, coming you live from the digital Persia. And with me is the other prince, Prince Jack, also from Persia. And welcome to a special episode of the Hack Jack Show. Bow before us, royalty. Bow to us in the chat. Yes, you ghetto, bow to us. You are in front of royal princes with no relations to each other. Welcome. Well, maybe go back far enough. You might share.
Go back far enough.
We might share. I don't know. Maybe a Cortez somewhere down the line. A Cortez from Persia. Well, welcome, folks. This is episode 238 of the Hack Jack Show. And as you see by the thumbnail, we have a brand new, flub that, game for our new series of the games of our youth. And tonight, Jack and I are going down memory lanes to look at one of Ubisoft's most well-received and most popular games of the 2000s, that is in Splinter Cell, and that is the Prince of Persia, in the first became the first game of the trilogy, the Sands of Time. Debatably the most famous Prince of Persia game. I mean, when people think of Prince of Persia, this is the one they think of, right? And maybe if you're the older generation, you might think of the original game that was on, I believe either on the Apple II. I did my research. The original game from 1989 was on the Apple II. And you want to know something, Jack?
What?
The Sands of Time here, in a way, is almost kind of I won't say a remake, but is like a redo of that original game. A little bit. It has the same characters, and there's not a lot of characters in this game. So the fact it has the same one, and so it also will go without saying, folks, that Jack and I will be going very in depth about this game.
Well, I was in death a lot of times in this game.
I wish I could say the same, but as you all know, I am, the bad gamer in comparison to Jack, so I had to use my time dagger a whole lot more than he did.
Oh, no. I was in death a lot of time.
Oh, I thought
I died a lot.
Oh, I thought you meant the opposite.
No,
well,
I died a lot.
Well, good. We both equally sucked at this game. So, this took a while. Funny enough, even though actually, if you guys look up long plays of this game, which we'll be showing a few clips here and there, whenever we have a very specific reference we want to pull in order to highlight certain parts of the game, so you guys can have a better visual understanding. So we'll be pulling that from time to time if need be. But strap in and hope you enjoy our full trip down memory lane with Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. And before we talk the game proper, let's start off with how we even got to know about the game in the very first place. And I'll go ahead and start because mine's pretty straightforward. So, I encountered Prince of Persia as a series in two ways, that actually it wasn't until years later that I even knew they were connected. The first way is that I have actually played the original Prince of Persia from 1989 on a computer. It wasn't an Apple II, but it was a computer that at the time could play a lot of old games. When I was a little child, so in the single digits, my family had me stay at at a daycare center, and for maybe a year or two, in one of their
Mhm.
activity rooms, they had two computers that the kids could use to play games. And on those computers, that is how I got my first experience playing not only the original Prince of Persia, but also the original Super Mario Brothers. So even back then, my gaming history started with piracy.
Wow.
Hey, it wasn't my fault. I blame the daycare.
And the man scolded me when I was in high school for piracy.
I never said I had to be consistent. And besides, I didn't buy those computers. They were just there for me to use. I was a kid. I was innocent. How would I know?
The car, I didn't steal the car. The keys were right in there. Were right in the ignition. It's not
Exactly.
my fault.
Exactly. Just because hey, look, it's your fault you got in the way when I was swinging my arms around, all right? You did not have to come forward. Also, Jody, my faulty thought process, I misheard. That's the thought process. I misheard what Jack said earlier. That's why. So, and I could tell you very truthfully that I did not get far enough in the original Prince of Persia because I kept falling on death traps, which even more than 20 years later, I would find myself doing the same mistake on this game. But we'll get to that. Now, as for the Sands of Time properly, I got exposed to this game when one of my uncles he got a original Xbox, and there was two games he had that caught my interest. One of them was a beat 'em up action game starring Bruce Lee. That which
Mhm.
I forget the name, but it's actually like the Bruce Lee in a video game. And I
Mhm.
remember playing that, thought was pretty cool because it's Bruce Lee. I mean, come on. I don't know if it was good or not, but the fact that you could be Bruce himself in a video game, that's all that mattered. The other game though was actually the demo for the Sands of Time. Now for some reason,
Okay.
now for some
Mhm.
reason, I, the game was not in English when I tried it out. And I want to logically say it was probably in Spanish, but
Mhm.
however, whatever setting that or whatever my game my uncle got, that demo disc, apparently it just was not in English. So playing just the demo version of Sands of Time was hard for me because I could not literally understand what the characters were saying, and my reading comprehension skills was not fully developed. So everything I did, I just kind of had to figure it out with just messing with the controls. But but
Mhm.
even through that way, I remember being very enamored with the game because I mean, if you look at the box art, which is the thumbnail of the stream, you look at the prince. Oh, it looks cool. He has a cool sword. Look at him. He's all damaged and beat up, but he looks like he's gonna do something awesome. And the
Yeah.
first time I got to do the wall running and all the parkour action stuff as a kid, I was like, there's only three cool characters in this world: Goku, Sonic, and the Prince of Persia. That was my thought process as a kid. And it wouldn't be till a few years later in which I would
Mhm.
finally properly play the game on my own GameCube through my GameCube. And unfortunately, even though I could read and understand the game, I did not have the patience or the wisdom to figure out a lot of the platforming sections early on, and so that was up until today. The Sands of Time was the game that I never finished, and looking back, I probably made it through halfway until I just reached a part that I couldn't figure it out. And because I didn't have that discipline to be like, no, I gotta play things fully. Once I reach a hard part, I was like, all right, I don't want to play this game anymore. Let me put in a Sonic game because I can beat those. That was the mindset at the time. So that is my early history with Prince of Persia, and for anyone else, I knew of the sequels, but I did not touch any of them. Mostly
Mm.
because I can either never find them on GameCube, or when they were available, there was another game I wanted more than the sequels. So that's my brief history. Brief history with the game. Jack, what's your history?
For me, whenever I played the game, I again a lot of my games that I found were because of the flea market in the GameCube era, during the GameCube era. And I said it many times before. When I was a kid, my dad took me to the indoor flea market. Hack kind of knows where it's at, more or less,
Mm-hmm.
if you remember. It's by that one place that used to be an HEB.
Is it is Yep, I remember exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, that one. So, um, and there had this one guy that, of course, he owned a little game store of all these used games that he had. It was from his own collection or from whatever he acquired from. He had a lot of stuff. And one of the games he had that I was lucky enough to be able to trade in was Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones. This was actually the sequel game. I didn't know it was the sequel game
The
at the
third
time, but at the
the,
same time,
the third sequel, since that is the sequel to The Warrior Within.
okay. But yeah, like, thankfully, as far as I knew, that was the first iteration of the game for me as a kid because I didn't know any better. And even then, like some of these Prince of Persia games, they don't really have they have continuity, but they don't really have to be that important to a certain extent. I played that throughout the whole game, and my God, that game took over my life. I beat the whole game. Don't tell me how it ends. Don't ask me how it ends because I forgot. But I got everything done. I got all the little bonus videos that you get from like completing the some of the challenges. And I was, as a kid, seeing those bonus videos made me laugh so bad because like who doesn't love a good nut joke where you
Ah,
someone ends up getting like the prince. I remember vividly the prince is like walking on one of the beams. He ends up slipping and then like it just he just goes nuts first on that beam
you know what?
and then like falls off.
That makes a lot more sense. At the same time, this is when Jackass was at its peak popularity.
Yeah.
So I could see just a bunch of animators going, "Hey, you know what would be funny? Let's do a nut shot on the prince."
Yeah. So that was one of the first few times I played the Prince of Persia games. The second Prince of Persia game that I played was Prince of Persia on the Xbox 360.
Which is the reboot one, and
Yep.
and sadly, it's a game that didn't get a lot of love at the time.
Yeah, it definitely has its interesting choices, but I wouldn't really call it bad. Although it did held your hand to a major extent, to the point where you're like, there was no real game over.
I remember that being a common complaint at the time, which is kind of funny considering that Prince of Persia, even the original games on the even the original games on the Apple II, they were infamous for being these very tricky platforming titles. So it's kind of funny that the reboot in 2008 we're like, okay, let's not follow the footsteps of what makes these series popular with our fans. Eh,
Yeah.
a ghetto comments. He says, "I swear I've seen that game go on sale for pennies frequently. I'm sure, and I bet if I could look it up now, in fact, I'll do that right now. I'm headed to eBay, and I'm going to see, and through modern inflation, where are people selling that game if they're even selling it? So let's see. Prince of Persia, Xbox 360, and I can and let's see. First, yep. So seeing a bunch of offers for as low as $3.98. That's the lowest one I could find. The highest one I could see. Oh no, never mind. I see a lower one for $1.99 just for the disc. Highest ones is like $34.99 for like a sealed copy. So you can still get this game, folks. That even like not 20, but what, 18 years later. 18 years later, you could still get this game new at a decent price. Oh man, but still, yeah, that's still a little sad. So now, so now when did you did you ever properly back then actually did play the Sands of Time? Did you ever come across it?
No, I never did. I was never aware of that being the first game. Or
Awesome.
actually, you know what? I might have been aware. I won't. Yeah, I might have been aware, but I definitely don't remember ever having a chance to play it.
All right, so if you guys recall, then from our last games of our youth episode, which is about I Am Alive, we have a reverse of that. So in which we're going back to a game like with I Am Alive, we were going back to a game that Jack was very, very familiar with, and I wasn't, and it was essentially a brand new playthrough for me. This will be the reverse. We're going back to a game I'm very familiar with, and Jack isn't. Although we're not going in completely blind, I should say. So there you go. And as well, because we play these games isolated, we also have while we have very similar, we also have a few things that made our gameplay, our time. I'm sorry, not gameplays. Our time with the games different. For starters, everything that I say about the game comes with the context that I was able to use a Xbox controller on the PC version of the game that I got from GOG or Good Old Games, while Jack played the Steam version and he played through the game only on mouse and keyboard, because I remember asking at the time he couldn't get a controller to work with his copy of the game.
Yep.
And and I think by the time you did, it was already too late. You got too acclimated to the keyboard controls.
Yeah.
Yep. So was the same thing that happens to him when he learned Skullgirls.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind as we talk about our experiences, because Prince of Persia, while it definitely did release on PC at that time, the way it controls and functions definitely was not first intended for a PC controls. But hey, if you can make something work, you gotta make it work. So without further ado, let us properly start our adventure. And you know what? I think to get us in the mood, I think we should see at the very least. Let's see the very opening cutscene so that we can get an idea of what this game is all about. Since there's cutscenes, like proper cutscenes, are very far and few in between this game.
Yep.
So, so I'll show you. So Jack, I'll share with you the link of the long clip we'll be using as reference material for you to see. But we're just gonna show off the opening cutscene for our audience. So give us a. So there you go. Put in the sources. So give us a moment. We have it all. We have it all ready. And let me go and switch to the video scene. Let me go ahead and also, just a credit, want to thank, who is it? Shirako for creating this video. So thank you, Shirako, for creating this long play. And let me just skip ahead a bit. All right, and enjoy the cutscene.
Most people think time is like a river that flows swift and sure in one direction. But I have seen the face of time, and I can tell you, they are wrong. Time is an ocean in a storm. You may wonder who I am and why I say this. Sit down, and I will tell you a tale like none that you have ever heard. Know first, I am the son of Shahram, a mighty king of Persia. On our way to Azad with a small company of men, we passed through India, where the promise of honor and glory tempted my father into a grievous error.
No, my son.
Your Majesty, I trust you remember your promise. The Maharaja's treasure hoards lie within.
See how he rides. Like a warrior son.
And with that, we'll end our first opening cutscene. There you go. So that is how the game begins. Begins with a battle. A battle between the Persian army and the forces of the Maharaja. And we'll also want to do some apologies for here right now because we're going to butcher a lot of these non-English names. So we're going to do our best. At least for some of them. They're easily able to be pronounced, but we can mess them. We can mess them up. I know I will. Jack, you there?
Yep.
All right. So now I actually do want to, because I did look a little bit about the original game, and want you kind of get in the mindset that this is a reboot to those original Prince of Persia games that were very much more fantastical and more like lighthearted fantasy adventures. But when Ubisoft acquired the Prince of Persia IP, and especially during the 2000s when all the rage about turning things a lot more, a little more edgier, a little more cooler, that's the same idea applied to not only this Prince of Persia, but this trilogy of Prince of Persia games, and is very evident from the first game. Because you got a sword battles going on, especially with the opening level as you explore the Maharaja's temple. You got what else? No, I already said battles, but you have a lot of things to show that this is not your dad's Prince of Persia. We can show a little bit of blood. We got proper monsters this time. We got evil conniving wizards. Oh, actually, that's the same from the original, but even more evil and conniving.
I mean, they're just as evil and conniving as Jafar from like the Aladdin series.
Yeah. Actually, you want to know something funny? In the original game, the main villain is also the Grand Vizier, like in this one. And in that game, his name is actually Jafar.
Yeah.
So Prince of Persia did it first. Yeah, they had a villain named Jafar before Disney got to it. Oh, and if for those who do recognize it slightly, that is indeed Yuri Lowenthal voicing the prince, a very young Yuri Lowenthal. And if you don't know who that is PS4 Spider-Man as the prince. Also, I think whatever Persona character he plays, I know he plays a good number of them. He's everywhere.
Akechi. And he's also one of the voices for Helldivers, too.
Like I said, he's everywhere. So now, with of course the introductory level, a lot of it is just one big tutorial to teach you how to play the game, but also what to expect from the game. So I brought down a lot of notes that you can hopefully hear the paper on my microphone. I wrote down a lot of notes, and so here's just a few things that from the very first hour of gameplay that came on my mind. Number one, I did die once in the tutorial. I fell into a shallow pool.
No, the shallow pool.
Yeah, it's always the shallow pool. Number two, much like Sonic Adventure 2, the sound mixing in the cutscenes is not great. I don't know if you noticed. Did you had a hard time hearing what the Grand Vizier actually said at times?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, for whatever reason, only in the cutscenes it's better in actual gameplay, but in cutscenes it's harder to hear characters at certain times, and they never fixed that. It's just something just gonna have to deal with the entire game. One big thing that I noticed about this game specifically is that this game has two modes. You have your platforming mode and you have your combat mode, and that's how a lot of the sections are divided as you play through this game. You'll get a platforming section followed by maybe a puzzle section or by a combat section. So and the game does not deviate from those three types of gameplay. And I actually do want to first talk about the combat, because that was the one that actually surprised me a lot. Because I want to see if you agree with this, Jack. Do you agree that the combat in the Sands of Time can be described as a very early and rough and a early and rough idea of what we now call Arkham combat?
Yes.
And when I say early and rough, I definitely do mean it.
Yeah. I thought if you were gonna say like great, I would have been like, no.
Oh,
It's definitely rough.
It's doable on controller. I don't know how to actually tell me. Just strictly on the what was the combat experience on a keyboard, and actually, if you're on a computer, show it through us. I'm putting my hands on my keyboard. I'm gonna play a game. I got my WASD. What button am I pressing to swing my sword?
So your WASD movement, your left click is your attacking.
Okay.
Right click is blocking.
All right.
Your E button is to stab, or is to use your the time. Technically, the part where you're stopping them, like where you freeze some of the enemies with them.
Now,
you kind of get me.
Now when you press E, does the stab with the dagger, or do you
The stab with the dagger?
Okay, gotcha.
R is to rewind time.
Ah, that makes sense.
So the time stuff is R.
Okay, so far so good.
Now, and spacebar is where you can do your when in the middle of combat, if you're by a wall or on a person, you can jump over them and do all that stuff.
Okay, so far it's I can see it looks intuitive. Now, was it actually intuitive in your experience?
The problem was in the later sections, when you have such a big amount of constant wave of enemies.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've had this experience where you would knock one down, or hell, you would knock two down, and you're gonna be one guy is trying to get to you, but by that time you have enough time to stab your dagger on the ones that are knocked down to suck them up, to turn them into sand, right?
Right.
I've had many times where I would try to you would have to, if you're gonna have to do a diagonal movement, you would have to press both W and A or W and D to be able to do that diagonal movement, and then at the same time press E. But
I see.
the thing is, it doesn't like it doesn't. It's like it's stuck in the 8 directions: up, down, left, right, diagonal, diagonal. There is no like in between both diagonals, so it's very sensitive. So if you say diagonal, it will go diagonal, but to whatever is the nearest enemy.
Yes,
And there
and
have been many times
Go.
where I would be just about to stab someone, and then when I press diagonal, I instead stab the guy next to him, and then I get hit.
now now I don't. I mean, I won't say that this is make you feel better, but that issue also occurs even on controller, because
Okay.
here's one. So when we say this game is like an early version of Arkham Combat, here's the best way to explain it. The way combat is designed, that it's all about crowd control to an extent. Not necessarily that you're trying to control like hordes of enemies in one group. It's more so that you're trying to you're trying, using the prince's natural athleticness, use it to gain advantages over your enemy. A perfect example is, especially that's taught very early on, is if you want to catch enemy by surprise, you can jump over them and do a two hit combo that for the most part is a guaranteed knockdown on most basic enemies. The harder ones, they counter that very hard, and so you gotta think of a new strategy. But that's kind of the idea, and the game very much encourages, even in the instruction booklet that I read for the game encourages you to, hey, don't stand in one place, move your ass. Because if you just stand there and try to fight these enemies all at once or one by one, they will gang up on you. And you're not Batman. You're not gonna counter the moves. The best you could do is block them, block their attacks, but you can't block all their attacks, and get out of the way from their big swings. And because it is not very, the action is not very smooth, at least compared to now, unlike I keep going back to an Batman Arkham game where movement is smooth and you have good control over who you want to take down with any given moment. Because I'll give this game a huge bunch of credit, especially for when it came out, which is 2003. I can't think of any other games that had combat like Prince of Persia. The only thing that may come close at that point in time was maybe the very first Devil May Cry, but it's not 1-to-1. Devil May Cry makes you feel very powerful, and you become more powerful as you play through the game. Prince of Persia, even though you do get better weapons as you play, and you get health upgrades to your life, you are given all the necessary abilities and tools you have from the beginning, and the game goes, all right, you got them, and survive, because the enemies are only going to get tougher.
Yep.
And the one thing that is a big hindrance of the combat that Jack was talking about is that the game has soft lock-on. So unlike in Devil May Cry, in which you can press a button to lock on the enemy you actually want to fight against, Prince of Persia doesn't have that. So the game will auto-lock to whatever is the closest enemy, and that the prince will immediately go for. Usually it's the enemy that's the closest to him. And for the most part, it works fine, and you can work with it for the most part. But especially when there's large groups of enemies and they are start to gang around you, it becomes very difficult to survive, and you end up fighting against the game's very, at this point in time, very outdated controls. And this is not to say that it's impossible or that the combat is the worst thing in the world. No, you can it's a bit of a learning curve, and you can learn it. And I will admit, especially on there are several fights, especially, and I can actually show. I could show like one of the last ending fights where you're really up against a lot of tough opponents. You get this huge adrenaline of being this very nimble and agile fighter going up against all these big ruthless enemies. So there is a good like thrill within the combat when it's working properly, but many times it can go against you. And I just want to showcase that with one of near the finale of the game where you're like really when you're really tested against the strongest enemy of the game, which would be the sword and shield sand monsters. And Jack, if you want to see what I'm talking about, in the video I've shared, it's going to be at the 4 hour, 19 minutes, and 19-second mark.
I think I know which part you're talking about because I just beat that part.
Yep, and I'm gonna just show a little bit off for the people here. This is a challenge. For near the end of the game.
Okay, so that section I have my own opinions on, though. That specific fight.
Me too. But I just wanted to just show it off just a little bit so people get an idea what the combat in the game is like.
Should have checked 3 hours and 46. That's a better section.
All right, we can check that at 3 hours 46. Let's see what was.
That one's the when you're going up the spire.
Oh hell no! This fight. Oh hell no to this one. All right, you know what? Because you brought that. You know what? That's a perfect example. All right, so what we're gonna show you is this is the elevator segment of the game. Yeah, somehow in ancient Persia and India, there's elevators. You figure it out. Okay. You go ahead because you brought it up. I'm gonna go ahead talk about your experience at this part while I have the gameplay showing, so people can understand how infamous this segment of the game is.
So, a big issue with these sections and the later games is like mainly the part where you have so many enemies that you take one down, and then as soon as you take one down, it gets replaced with another instantly. There is no time to breathe in these later fights, and you would be lucky that they don't end up ganging up on your companion, which is Farah. She's currently, as you can see, she's in the background shooting arrows. Because the worst thing is, she also has her own life bar. She has her own life bar, and if she gets hit too many times, she will die, and it causes a game over.
Which has happened to me a handful of times.
And here you can see the difference between the enemies. There's the blue ones. They either have the sword and shield or these double-edged staffs. I forgot what they're actually called. Halberds. I don't know. Double
end spears.
But as you can see, if you get cornered and you're in the middle of everything, you will get run down very quickly. And with these, the reason why these blue ones are very deadly is that you cannot vault over them. The other, unless you freeze them, like how he's doing right now. Because
very much.
If you fail freezing, you saw what happened right there. He got hit and got pushed back, and that does do damage to you.
You can also vault them if you activate the slow time effect. However, I actually do want to say, Jack, how often did you use the slow down time mechanic?
When I was like in very big need of time, like, to kind of figure out where I'm going.
I've used it because on the harder enemies like you're seeing right now, the slow down effect actually lets them be able to get hit more so than when you're just in regular gameplay mode. Now, this segment we were watching, one thing is also infamous, and you guys saw it a few times, is that if you end up very close to where Farah is, and that part of the elevator, what ends up happening is that the camera can get stuck behind the green curtains, blocking your vision from the fight, and you cannot see what the hell you are doing.
What's worse is this game, they added friendly fire.
Yes, when Farrah shoots arrows, you can accidentally get hit by her.
Oh, actually, like, look, I go back a little bit. I think I just saw him get hit by one. Because, like, that's the thing that, and not only that, you can hurt her too. I realized that whenever, like, I stabbed her by accident, cut her her health in, like, more than half.
By the way, Jack, this is something that I learned pretty late in the game, and I'll go ahead and pause here because it's the end of the section. I learned this pretty late in the game. Did you know that once you're knocked down, you can actually block while you're on the ground?
Yes.
Okay, I learned that pretty late, so you can imagine that when I got knocked down, I was quickly trying to like jump back up or quickly go straight for the attack, and because of that, pretty much all the monsters will just gang up around me, and like one by one, they will just start like swinging their axes or spears or swords right on me as I'm laying on the floor, and I'm like, and it made me like. This game did get me to rage once, like real bad gamer rage. So now this is all near the end of the game, which obviously it's a lot more tougher and is meant to challenge you. It's hard, but not impossible. Definitely not impossible. But for the majority of the game, from the beginning all the way to the midpoint, so the combat is not as stressful as it becomes. It's very doable. A lot of the enemies you can defeat with a lot of the mobility mechanics that you have at your disposal. And in fact, up until really the end, you don't even have to even rely too much on your sand time powers. Because I forget to neglect that. One of the big gimmicks I think everyone knows about this game is that at any point, if you have the sand and the literal meter, you can rewind time like a few seconds, and that is during the puzzle platforming and during the combat. And trust me, that's going to save your behind in both situations. However, of course, with such a powerful mechanic, it is limited by your resources, so you can't just go back in time as many times as you want. And unless you have a full meter, sometimes you don't even have a second to go back in time.
You know, and the funny thing you mentioned that is, did you know that every time whenever you freeze someone with a dagger, it resets that meter?
Yes, actually, anytime. So, I forget for more context. In order to acquire more sand for your dagger to use your time powers, you can only get them. Well, not only. There's two ways to get them. Either through upgrading your dagger through these sand power-ups littered throughout all the levels, or you refill them by defeating down enemies. Because as you saw in the fights, once you knock an enemy down on the ground, you then have to stab them with the time dagger, and it refills a portion of your sand. That's the only way to refill it. But every time you do so, and I noticed this, your meter for the amount of time you can use the sand is resetted. So that's kind of, I guess, the way how they balance out of you not abusing the time mechanic. So anytime you use your dagger, you are resetting the meter. You are resetting the duration of time that you can use with your dagger.
There is a point in the game where, but right before that elevator, you know how there's like a big fight that you have to go through before the elevator and before you even get into that complex. Like you just got out of like this well.
Is it the one are you talking about the one that you get into after you get out of the prison section?
Yes.
Yes, that was another rage-inducing fight for me.
So in that fight, I came into it with basically the health bar at the curving point. of the bar itself. You know how it kind of curves and then goes straight?
Yeah.
That was all I had left, was that curve,
Oh
and I had to
no.
go into that fight with that much health.
Um.
And
Oh
the amount
man.
of times where I'm like, all right, sand power, I kill, sand power, I kill, and then I'm like, oh, I got hit by some random big brute that has the freaking mace. I'm like, oh, okay, let me just go back in time, and it's like half second, half second, half second. I'm like, what?
Yep.
That's when I realized it reset my whole thing. Like very late into the game, because like for the most part, I was never in a point where I needed to like reset that much.
Oh yeah. They can.
So
I think we're kind of painting a picture here that that once you get into a certain section, the combat, strictly the combat, just gets very hard because then the game's like, okay, you're only fighting the strongest enemies. In fact, after a certain part, there's some enemy types you don't even see anymore.
yep, and what was like so annoying about that part is just the fact that I could not see where the water fountain is, because usually I would just like run to a water fountain and then be able to. But when I finally found it after the fact, and this was me talking to a few friends while I was playing it before we actually went live. One of them was like, "Oh, that's where it's at." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's so far away. Even if I went to get some water, came back down, Farah would have been just completely attacked by four different guys, and it would have been a game over." So either way, I had to fight with such low health.
Yep. And I was in similar situations too. But hey, I think the only thing I could take out of it is that it made me just that much pay attention more and get into like a flow state of the game's janky combat. Now, uh, so that's just I think that's most. There is actually a lot more stuff you can do with the combat, but there was one mechanic that I could never figure out how to learn, no matter how many times I read the instruction manual. Jack, did you ever learn how to do the really big, powerful time move where you can speed around and hit all your opponents all at once?
No, I literally was looking it up again right at the end of the elevator part, because I was like, I remember seeing Division do that, and I remember I was able to do it once, but I don't remember how to do it. So I looked it up. For PC, it's holding down the block button and then the rewind at the same time.
I tried doing that too. So I use Xbox controller, so it's basically holding the back trigger buttons. I still couldn't get it to work, and I had a full resources of sand and full time duration in the meter, and I'm like, I can't figure this out. So I can never, not even on accident, was able to use the most powerful move on the game.
Yeah, hell, I don't think even the guy in that gameplay was even doing it. Have you noticed that he had so many people, but didn't use it once during that whole fight?
One thing I think the game, I don't know, maybe it's because because it's a product of when it was made, or maybe there's an expectation that you will have that instruction manual in you at all times. The game, for better or for worse, does not does it does not remind you of all the things you can do. So it is very easy to forget everything that the prince can do, and that's very much reinforced when for the first half of the game you can get by on the bare essentials of the combat. It's not till later on that you're gonna like, okay, I actually need to start exploring these other mechanics within the fighting just to have some type of advantage.
Even then, like some of the things they added was very situational. Like for example, the jump moves from the walls.
Oh yeah, I
I'm like,
like to do them because it's for style, but At a certain point, it served no purpose to do so.
Yeah. It's an RNG super. Don't tell me that. No, that can't be true.
I think
That can't be true.
I think he's just BSing you.
Okay, I swear to God, that would have been that would have broken my heart. I'm like, no.
I want to switch. I want to switch gears because, like in combat, not the worst thing in this game, but it is definitely a stressful part of the game. But the real, or actually,
Wait,
hold off.
Before that, and let me ask you one question.
Go ahead.
How many times did Farah kill you?
Nah, thankfully none. She hit me.
She killed me twice.
Ah.
Like literally, again at the point when I had low health. In that section, I was about to finish off like two of the enemies, and then I got shot, and I could, and that was at the same time that I stabbed someone with the dagger, so I couldn't reset.
Shot to the heart, and you're too late. You give
so all I heard was
a bad
all
name.
I heard was sorry.
Ah, sorry. And right after, when the prince always says they're trying to get over, no, that's not how it went at all.
Yeah, he's like, sorry, help, I need help. Like, you just shot your only help. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's actually this is a minor thing, especially whenever Sarah, like the Sarah is with you within the room. Thank you, Farah. I'm sorry, not Sarah. Farah. But whenever Farah's with you in the room, this is a minor thing. Do you like the fact that you can actually hear or not hear her depending on how far you are from her?
I mean, it's a kind of funny situation because there are times where she was talking, and then like I would just walk somewhere else, and I just slowly hear her fade away, talking to herself.
It's very immersive. Like in real life, you go. Someone keeps talking, you go away, so you can't hear them.
Yeah, like in real life, whenever a woman's talking to you, just walk away. Just walk away.
Just walk away. Which, hey, you can do that. Look at that, Johnny. You can do that a lot in this game.
The good thing about the most of the dialogue is just there for immersion. There is no real consequence of you not listening to someone.
Yeah, and also, for the
most part,
and all the dialogue is prefab. No, that's not the word. All the there's all the game's dialogue runs itself on whatever parts of the level you are. So it's not that you can accidentally skip it, not unless you're trying to do it like a speed run or something.
Since we're talking about the dialogue, can we talk about the Princess dialogue about Farah?
I will say this. I find it endearing in a very kind of cheesy novel way, but I can also see how someone can be annoyed with their dynamic.
It's like it's very cringy in the sense of like it's cheesy for an early 2000s video game. But at the same time, I'm just like, whoa, what do you mean by that?
It's to say the prince says a lot of out of pocket stuff sometimes. He's from a different era.
He is definitely from a different era, but like the fact that at one point he's talking to himself, saying like how he's trying to like bargain with himself, saying, she is like. I think he mentioned it, like she is royalty. That means that we can marry, and then he ends up saying something about like, and she's like she's so brazen. I mean, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to put her in her place. Maybe. Jesus Christ.
I had a good kick out of that. I'm like, because all I could think is just in my it going back to just a reference to Shakespeare is like, taming the shrew, are we? Like to me,
I'm just like, whoa.
I didn't find it that bad, but you are right. It is very cheesy, but also find it pretty enduring. And once I got in the into like the mindset of like, okay, this is like cheesy fantasy fiction, and I'm not gonna. And a lot of the things that these characters say are meant to evoke that type of storytelling, but because of that, not a lot of people will gel with that, especially now since, well, okay, I'm not gonna say that voice acting in the 2000s was like Prince of Persia was like an example of that, because there's definitely games even of the same era that had a lot more immersive and genuine like voice acting performances. Look at the first Metal Gear Solid game, as cheesy that sometimes that could be, but it works it well. One that I know people talk about a lot, but I don't know firsthand, would be the Soul Reaver games. I've heard they have very immaculate voice acting. So there was definitely good examples, but it was not very common. So for a big budget game like Prince of Persia Sands of Time, for when it came out to have this type of voice acting, and nowadays it's, for some people it's charming. For others like Jack, it's like it's, there's no way to put it. It can be cringe. It is depending on how you want to look at it. Especially now too, if you compare it to today, in which most games have, which is almost a standard that your game is gonna needs to have, at least if you're a big budget game, that you're gonna need to have just a high standard of voice acting. Which, you know what, if that remake actually did happen, I would have loved to hear the new performances of these characters. Maybe they could have been less cheesy, but hopefully not take away the fun aspect, because I do like the charm of Farah and the Prince is kind of like they're growing to understand and trust each other, and there's a lot of the bickering as well, but like good, like playful bickering, and from my point of view.
Yeah, a lot of the
anyways.
bickering does tend to be you're a woman jokes, you're a man joke.
Very much. That's very much so. Shallow, but ultimately harmless. Oh, but speaking of dialogue, do you want to talk about the very that, I think the moment where the characters got to have like their only heart to heart in the entire game? You want to talk about that, or do you want to go straight into the platforming?
When you say the heart to heart, do you mean like the one towards the end of the game?
Yeah, since we're on the topic of voice acting and the characters.
Yeah, we could talk about it
All right.
if you like.
So actually, I do want to show this section. It's again near the end of the game, and it's when, and is actually when, for context, Farah and the prince are close to their objective, which is the hourglass, which is the MacGuffin of the game. It's the object that the characters need, and the prince was very close to pretty much restoring the sands of time back in its place, and fixing all the problems that he caused to begin with in the beginning of the game. But because he still wasn't 100% trusting Farah, he hesitated into doing so, and because of that, the big villain came in and is like, haha, I disappeared for 2/3 of the game, but I'm now here to stop you.
Yeah.
Yep, he does some magic nonsense, and both the prince and Farah end up falling into an empty tomb. And in that moment, we get a very interesting scene that honestly has to be seen to be believed. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually show you guys the scene. Jack, you're gonna want to go ahead and go to 3 hours, 52 minutes, and 38 seconds.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna go and let this play scene and play. Don't let this scene play in full. Play now.
A tomb.
You were there. The dagger was in your hand. Why did you hesitate? You think you're cleverer than everybody, but you're just like the rest of them. Those soldiers, all they can do is fight, destroy. Why did I trust you? Why didn't you trust me? Ow.
Sorry.
Where are you?
I'm right here.
Hold my hand. Don't let go. I didn't mean what I said.
No, you're right. All that's happened is my doing. I wanted honor and glory. I brought this on us.
You are brave and good. If this tomb is to be ours, at least the dagger will be buried with us. And we are together. What is it?
Nothing.
You're trembling.
I just don't like close spaces. There must be some way out of here.
When I was small, my mother taught me a secret word. She said that when I was afraid, all I had to do was speak that word, and a magic door would open. I've never told that to anybody.
I can see why. It's the most childish thing I've ever heard of. What was the word?
Kakolukiam.
Kakolukia. You did that, didn't you? Farah?
And we'll stop there. So, Jake, if I know you will, I'm sure you did not appreciate the Yuri's ASMR that happened in that scene.
I was more confused on the cinematography choices for that scene.
I have the same exact thoughts when that scene happened. In fact, Jack, when that happened, I was convinced I encountered a bug. I was so
Same.
So in fact, because of that, I stopped while I was playing. I went online and was like, okay, maybe it's a bug in the PC version. I look up, nope, that is how the scene is played out. Just complete darkness with like sand dust effects going on. While the two characters are doing ASMR voice acting in your ears.
Yep.
But I'll give the scene credit to being trying to be creative. I don't think they achieved it because I think I even wrote this down. Let's see what was my thoughts about it. Here it is. So here's what I wrote about it in my notes. It says, in a bizarre creative decision, the heart-to-heart conversation is heard but not shown. Perhaps it is to emphasize the dark and claustrophobic environment. That's what I took away of why they did that, but it is especially with the two actors being like this super close to the mic too, you can hear all their little mouth noises. It just made for kind of an awkward moment.
I mean, for me, considering how joking the banter was throughout the whole game, it just felt off to have this heart to heart. Very, but I don't know. That was just me. I feel like the scene later on kind of sealed it better.
You know what? Yeah. I could definitely because I could definitely see your point because from this point in the game, like from throughout, they have their bickerings, but you never get any like moments where the story slows down and they can have character moments. Which, funny enough, you think it's kind of what modern games have now now designed into their games. How people complain about the forced walking section when characters have where characters talk to each other. And obviously we a lot of people would decry that because it's like, no, I want to play the game and I don't want to go through this because either they already know the story or they're not invested in the story. But when it works, when it does work, you at least have moments for the characters to talk to each other, and you get that break from the gameplay to just focus on the narrative. And due to how this game is designed with the design standards of its time, and as well trying very new things, for the most part, um, I'm sure if they probably had the budget, we could probably have a lot more cutscenes of them having these type of more uh intimate or bonding interactions. But because this is designed to be an action game first, they had to they had to find all that bickering. That was probably the only way they can have these characters uh interact with each other in gameplay, which makes sense because number one, it doesn't slow the game down as the characters talk to each other, but it does not allow for more deeper moments. With the only exception being, since you're playing as the prince, you can at least hear his thoughts, but that's about it.
Yeah.
All right, so I think it's time now we go into the biggest aspect of the game, and that is the platforming. And Jack, what are the odds that for the games of our youth that we covered two games in a row that, while very strikingly different in how they're developed, designed, but still both Ubisoft games, funny enough, um, despite their stark differences of their main goals of how they want to design their games, both of them are very different types of puzzle platformers. Whereas I'm Alive was very focused on resource management and platforming, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is a game that tests, okay, how well can you handle our very tight and very split second platforming. And that is, of course, where the game shines the strongest. You're going to do a lot of jumping, a lot of running, a lot of climbing, but by God, does it feel good to do. It is, in fact,
Yep.
it can get long at times, but solving all these platforming problems, it is very rewarding, and it gives you a good loop of like, okay, I'm ready for the next one. It's kind of like, I think the best way to put it is like, imagine Mario 64, but Mario didn't feel as floaty. That's the best way to put it.
Yep.
And now, Jack, do you have any particular platforming sections that you are either you remember the most, or one you feel in the favorite, or one that you thought was infamous, or any one of them stand out to you in one way or the other?
This was just more me fighting the controls rather than anything else. But one thing I did had an annoyance with was trying to get the prince to move the way I wanted him to. There have been many times where I would want it to angle exactly at a certain thing to be able to go from one pole to another, and the character just completely misses the mark because I guess the way I inputted it through the keyboard, it was not good enough, so he went somewhere else rather than where I wanted him to go.
Yeah, and that same thing happened on the controller. So, but isn't thankfully it's not it's not a consistent issue, and when you do climb the poles, they do for the most part make it obvious of where you should be heading next. But because you don't have complete control of the camera when you do these platforming sections, sometimes you can get lost in the environment and you're not sure where to go next, which is kind of the point of what makes these platforming sections challenging.
And I guess like when the better parts, when it came to like really show off how you can be able to just like quickly go through these things with your just to show off the prince's mobility, was the prison section.
Oh yeah, because
At least that's for me, because like it showed you being able to wall run. You had to put in the aspect of wall running, jumping, and doing these the back and forth wall jumps.
Oh yeah,
to get through the prison.
Very much, and I do want to show. Let's see if I can find the prison. Let me see if I can real quick, because that's actually one of the more faster pace. Oh, here it is. I'm just showing it off for the folks at home. It's definitely one of the more faster puzzle platforming sections because it's all very a lot of split second decisions. That being said, I do love though how this whole temple that you're exploring of the Maharaja. I do how none of it, absolutely none of it, makes sense of the way it's designed, of how everything works. And I noticed it a lot more with the prison section, because when I was doing it, it never occurred to me to think, wait, hold on, why are there panels on the wall that the normal person can't reach? There is if you want to throw out the fancy term out there is some ludonarrative dissonance in that the world and levels design are very much can only work within the game and not meant to resemble any type of actual real architecture. But that's literally nitpicking, because we gotta have a game about platforming. We have to make a game of platforming. It doesn't have to make the most sense. Granted, standards have changed, and heck, even Mario can have worlds with worlds that actually make sense and have tricky platforming. But at the time, it was like, nah, just be creative. Have a random pole in the middle of this giant room on the top floor.
How does this elevator work? How? I don't know.
It just works. It just works. Now,
have this giant spire protrude off of this statue. How? The power of the sun.
now the prison is actually one of the cooler platforming moments. It's actually about to end, but there is one section in which the platforming can become annoying. And sure, and Jack, I think you can guess what I'm talking about, and that will be one of the very, I think I've come to learn, the very infamous light puzzle room in the game.
Light puzzle room.
Yeah, with the reflective mirrors.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna try to actually find. I'm actually trying to find that. I just don't remember how far into. I don't remember off the top of my head. Looking at my notes, how far into the game that is. I think it is. I know it's definitely past the zoo
that was
area.
Like halfway through.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking here. There's a little detail I noticed. Is mentioned the combat again. One thing also makes the game hard. The prince has no iframes. That also why it makes it hard.
No
and the enemies can beat you up. You got no iframes. This ain't a fighting game. You ain't got no iframes.
2 hours 55. That's from what I've seen.
2 hours 55. Yeah, I would say the person playing this, he beat the game faster than me. My total playtime ended up being like a little over 9 hours. So compared to this gentleman here who beat it in 4.5, shows how much I sucked.
I missed one sand mode because I completed the game at 98.
Let's see. Here it is. So we're gonna let this play out. So the whole now this is the actual puzzle platforming that's actually a puzzle. And the whole gist of this section is that you gotta keep these. You gotta position these mirrors to reflect the light all the way up and to solve a puzzle. Now, the actual things that makes this part difficult, especially if you're playing this for the first time, is that you have to do a lot of moving back and forth. Now, here's the problem. You're not just walking back and forth, you're platforming back and forth. And if I can actually, if I'm going to fast forward this section here, just past the combat, go past that. I'm going to head to where we actually start the puzzle properly. I'm at 3 hours and 1 minute, 3 hours, 1 minute, 55 seconds in. So as you can see here, you're traversing some dangerous ground as you're trying to get up. Now, this isn't bad the first time as you're figuring out the puzzle and trying to get to all these different areas, and as well discovering and unlocking new shortcuts and parts of the level to gain more access. But it becomes annoying when you have to, if you, let's say, mess up a light, or you gotta go back to Nera to fix a reflection because you're trying to test something out. All this stuff you see here, for the most part, you have to redo it repeatedly. And if you actually end up going back all the way down from where you are up high, you have to do all these sections over and over again. And it does get tiring. And this is, now on repeats, this probably is actually not that bad because you know what you're doing and you can get through this no problem. But for a first timer, this can be like, I know for me, I was already like, oh, I'm so tired of this specific section of the game, and I want to get this over with. But then it becomes infuriating because you're like, but I'm trying to solve this damn puzzle, and I don't know what the game wants me to do. Eventually, I did figure out, and I kept my cool, and I did not rage at this part. He messed up. But this still was an infamous moment when this game came out. Jack, your thoughts?
When it came to this area, I did had some troubles, but not to the extent where I felt like I was completely confused on what it wanted me to do. Like, I knew at a certain point, like, what the game wanted me to do. I just didn't expect it. I think it came to me having to... The problem was that you had to, like, go against what most of the time this game was teaching you to do, which was... Once when you activate one thing that's done, you should not move it.
Oh, yeah.
Because at least that's for me what it felt like, where like I
was gonna say, because I think for this, I remember for this puzzle, like you actually have to move something that you already used to a different place in order to kind of get out of here. If I remember correctly.
When it came to at least opening up the gate to get the new upgrade for your, or pretty much the upgraded sword, you would have to move the pedestal again and turn off the initial light that you turned on, just so you can be able to turn on the light that's hidden behind a wall.
Oh, that's, yep. I remember, as coming back to me now, and I do want to emphasize, you can actually, if you have a good head on your shoulders, you can actually figure out the puzzle. It's just more so doing the platforming that you see here repeatedly. That's what kind of drained me when I was doing this section.
For me, what made me more annoyed was actually towards the ending platform.
Against the power of love.
When you say any platform,
Mostly because you did not have
oh, okay, you mean like
the going up the tower.
at the end of, at the literal at the literal end of the game. Uh, okay.
Because the reason why for me is because I did not have my retries.
So okay,
And if you mess up, you have to go back to a checkpoint.
so for that, I actually thought as a final platforming challenge, I actually thought that was genius. Now, did it mean that I did get upset and frustrated when I did die and had to start over a good chunk? Yes, I did. But as a final proper challenge, where like, all right, right, this whole game, you essentially had a safety net when all these platforming challenges. Now that the safety net is gone, do it all in one take. I thought for an ending challenge, I thought that was the best way to go about it.
I felt like that would have been better if it was placed like maybe in the prison thematically, because you're in a prison, you will be locked. Yeah, like it's like symbolic in a way. You're in the prison, you're now chained down, not just him with symbolically with him taking off his like armor and everything, but let's say even his weapon, it would have been a better placement there compared to the final area, because the final area, it's literally you trying to catch up to the Pharaoh.
I'm thinking, because they're very close to each other. They're a bit like we basically are talking a lot about the end of the game, mostly because it's very fresh in our minds. This is not to say that the rest of the game is not as memorable, but number one, it's been a while for the beginning of the game, and for the most part, it is a cakewalk, or not a cakewalk, but
Yeah.
it's if once you understand the controls, is a very smooth ride to go through. So kind of like a Mario game, no one really remembers the beginnings of a Mario game. But once you get towards the end of one, that's where it's like, okay, now this game is starting to actually be difficult and challenging. But as to your point about making the prison section be the one where you have the final platforming challenge, I could see that. And you made a good job mentioning the symbolically, because when you reach that, the prince, he takes off his tattered armor and he looks like what he does in the box art. It says everyone. Oh, never mind. He looks like what he's like the time of the box art. So you reach you reach at the most desperate point for the prince at that prison level, and like I said, it's a very fast. You know what? If that safety net with a dagger wasn't there, I could definitely see it as it being like an ultimate challenge, because it is a very quick and as well very tricky platforming section with like timed platforms and risky jumps and a lot of wall running. While compares to the actual final platforming challenge, now I'm actually not thinking about it, most of it was just a lot of just walking through tight either tight edges or just like or
Climbing.
or climbing. Yeah, thank you. And I think what they're going for is kind of like the scale, because you finally reach like the very tip part of the temple, but but as far as actually challenging you the mechanics, yeah, it definitely does not give you that as what the prison did, because you're using all your mobility options to go through with it. But the final platforming puzzle, it goes more for scope than actual, like, okay, here's your real test of your platforming now that we took the dagger away. But And if I was given the option, if like which section you rather play, like the finale puzzle or the prison, I'm picking the prison because of the doing the raw running and jumping off the walls, that was pretty cool. Having to do the slow climb up the temple wasn't as cool.
Yeah, it was like that's the only main reason why I just didn't care much about the dagger being gone for the tower, because it just felt like it was slowing down the progression for no reason. Yeah, to build suspense of some sorts, and you having your Sisyphus moment of trying and then dying and then like back at the start trying again, but like you've already gone through your the character's Sisyphus moment where he's stuck in the prison and he's actually like feeling like he's literally talking about how he's now in a prison and how he didn't expect to be in here.
That's
That would have been a great moment to put it there.
that's true. You could definitely put it as a missed opportunity. If I was, I guess, like going through the heads of the team making this game, the Pop team, as they're officially called, or maybe it's POP, whatever how their team is called. I think they did it. They definitely did. Were going for that, as you said, the Sisyphus moment with the prison. I think they were for the climb to the tower. I think they were just going more for like a grand scale, but because a lot of stuff slows down, especially with those annoying bats. Oh my gosh! Little tangent. The all the flying enemies are so annoying, and I wish we didn't have to deal with them. All the flying enemies. The bats are just a minor annoyance, but the actual winged birds is like that you actually have to fight against is like, oh, it's like, you know what? If in the remake, I would have gotten rid of those or make those the enemies Farah has to deal with and just her, because I did not, I hated dealing with the flying enemies as the prince.
Yeah. There's literally nothing you can do but wait, and it just slows down progress.
Oh, very much so. And because they always come during a platforming section, and usually when you're walking the tight edge, which is already slow, like walking the tight edge is already a slow process, adding enemies makes it much slower. And so you're like, oh, let me just get on with this. I hate this thing. One of the genuine critiques I have of that game is just the flying enemies slow everything down, and they add nothing to the game. They add nothing. Oh, I look at my notes. I had a weird comment. In the zoo section, I commented as for something that is a zoo, there is surprisingly a lack of animals.
You're right. The only animal you ever saw was the birds, and that's it.
Yeah, so I was like, man, either the sands of time killed all those creatures, or the Maharaja is just not good at being a zookeeper.
Now, going back a little bit, just because I find it funny. How did you feel about the bath section? The bath
The bath section
in the very early game. Yeah.
The bath section.
The hour and 30.
I remember what you're talking about now. I remember. That's that one. Just again, just to show the audience. I think for like a fine, like, I don't think it's the first. Is it actually the first big section of the game that you go through?
I don't know if it's the first big section, but
oh no,
you're the section I remember.
Oh no, it's the second section, because the first one you're traveling like through like the surrounding area within that main hall. That was the first section. So this is like the second section of the game. The bath, I thought it was neat for like for an early part of the game. Let's see. I'm looking through my notes, see if I wrote anything of of note. And oh my god, back to the bird section. I even wrote in my notes, bird enemy is the weakest enemy, but boring to fight. Let's see anything else I wrote down. No. With the bad section, you know what? While it's not the first section, it is a good. It is the good first like real early challenge of the game, especially as you're seeing here as you're dealing with all the traps, because there is a lot of traps, which is actually again a good reusing the designs from the very original game, because the original Prince of Persia was all about avoiding death traps, and so so the Sands of Time brings that back, and in between all the big sections areas like you see right now in the game, you have these hallways where you have to avoid death traps, and those are usually were pretty fine. They never, surprisingly, they never got annoying. They were reasonably challenged. All the death trap sections. And oh no, he's fighting the pretty ladies. Jack, did you feel?
I always found.
Were you sad you had to kill these pretty ladies?
Kind of. What the hell do you take me for? God damn. Are you excited to kill a woman?
No, you misheard. I said, did you feel sad about killing these pretty ladies, even if they're sand monsters?
Oh.
I felt sad. But jokes aside, what were you gonna say about the bass section?
Oh. The funny thing for me was the fact that, like, the only time, like, I had a certain point, I don't remember how it happened. I guess it just made a lot of mistakes where I had very low health during the middle of the fight. So one of the things I panicked to do was drink the bath water.
Water is water.
And he does it.
Yep. Let's see.
He does it.
Let me see. Yeah, look, even the person in the video did it.
yeah, he does it. He's like, all right, I'm done. Let me just drink some water real quick.
You know what's funny? I never, even during combat, even when there was water to drink, I never drunk it. I was too focused on getting rid of the enemies first, and then heal my health later. Which, you know what, probably it's not a good strategy, but you know.
Like, it's the best thing to do since the game doesn't give you any sort of recovery items.
That's true. If actually that goes into a big part of the game that surprisingly shocked me as I was playing it. I'm pausing the video, going back to the main screen. What surprised me a lot was how very, even for its time, it's a very bare bones game. And
yeah.
And I think it's like, wow, there's no collectibles, there's no secondary objectives. All of the power-ups, which are basically to either extend your health or to extend the amount of sand powers you have at your disposal. You can, even if you don't get all of them, you'll end up finding most of them because they're, for the most part, always along. They're never far away from your peripheral vision, or they're always literally on the path that you're going to. So it's not like the power-ups are just scattered throughout. You have to find them. It is a very straightforward game, like no fluff. And you know what? They could have easily tried to do a lot and expand with different secondary objectives, collectibles, because those games were still, they were still a thing. Look at Mario 64. You have all these different environments to go and do all of these different objectives that are not always the main objective in those games. Oh, in that game, I should say. And with Prince of Persia, they take a more straightforward approach, which was, I'm trying to think, which was, well, I'm honestly, what you think? Do you think, Jack, that the game is hindered or benefited for being as straightforward and bare bones as it is in terms of content in within the game itself?
I think for it being the first of the series or of the trilogy, uh, that is a very tough thing to answer
Well, don't
because
get,
I feel like I didn't really like. I felt satisfied with just doing the puzzles and the combat and the platforming.
well,
Like I didn't feel like I needed to do the collectible stuff or things like that.
and let's actually remove the trilogy aspect because I assume that those games will build upon this one. But let's look at its contemporaries at the time of like games with challenging of platforming and combat. A good example I could think of is that has that will be Super Mario Sunshine. And Super Mario Sunshine is is almost designed very much like Super Mario 64, and you have a whole lot of different things to collect from the shine sprites, the blue coins, red coins. I think those are the three main things you can you do collect a lot. You get different mechanics as you progress through the game, like the different types of flood tools. Like you get the different flood tools, and eventually you get Yoshi, and you get all these very different environments. Now, granted, Super Mario 64 is designed way differently, and it definitely was a much bigger game than the Sands of Time. And if maybe if I could if I wish I looked it up, maybe this game was on a strict budget and schedule that maybe they had a lot of plans for, or to do a lot of things, but this was gonna be a brand new start for Prince of Persia, and maybe Ubisoft was like, okay, we're already doing a lot here. Let's get our fundamentals good before we try to do crazy stuff. But I'm bringing this all up because I'm thinking I'm surprised this game is as successful as it is, considering how bare bones it is, because in compared to even its contemporaries at the time. And especially since this wasn't like an N64 game, this wasn't a PlayStation game. This was released on 6th generation hardware that was hot back then on your PS2, your Xboxes, and GameCubes. So if anything, I was just kind of just surprised that is of how straightforward it is, considering when it came out.
That's true, but at the same time, like as you said, it was a very linear game, so there was no need. I'm pretty sure the developers thought that there was no real need to have collectibles going through. The closest thing you had were the sand moats and the rooms.
I do like that the rooms to upgrade your health are there, and there's no explanation. I do kind of like that.
That's the one thing I would have liked, was just to have an explanation of what the hell that room is.
Yeah, like it would not have hurt, but essentially it's like, you know what? Yeah, let's just upgrade my health and just don't explain how it works. Just some Hindu spirit is protecting the prince. That's what I would believe.
And like the fact that finally the one time when there's a character that is like right there to see you go into that room, which is Farah. He's like, did you just see that? Like, and the only answer is like, saw what? Like, God dang it! I wish I had some answers.
Ooh, okay. So I'm actually looking at some background information. So one of the things that's sticking out to me is that, well, number one, do you want to know how many people worked on this game in total? Do you want to give a ballpark answer?
50.
You're actually very close. According to the wiki, it says at its peak, the game was worked on by a staff of 65 people, which is, again, compared to modern time, that's a very small team.
Yep.
And another interesting tidbit is that there was a game that the designers played a lot and influenced a lot of decisions for the Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. It's a game. I have not played, but I very much heard of. Maybe you have heard of, Jack, of a game called Ico or Eco. I don't know. I forgot how you pronounce it. ICO. You ever heard of it?
No.
It is a. Well, let's see. Do you know the game? What was it? Do you know the game Shadow of the Colossus?
Oh yeah.
Okay, it is. So that is a Sony. It's a Sony Computer Entertainment Japan. That's the name of the team. The same people who made Shadow of the Colossus are the same people who made Ico or Eco, and it's a game for the PS2. Came out in 2001. And it's according to the wiki dot here. Says this is according to the lead, one of the lead designers of the game. They spent an entire day going through Eco, the entire team together, sitting down, looking at it, playing it, discussing it, brainstorming. And they particularly like how the castle in Eco seems real and you always know where you are. So we tried to have this a bit also in the second palace. It also influenced the interaction between the player and the lead female character, but with some changes. So interesting. There you go. A lot of the major design influences for Prince of Persia came from Eco. I wonder how influential it is. Could you make an argument that they stole this? But inspiration's a good word to use. I should play. Maybe I should get Eco a try. Surprisingly, that is one PS2 game that never got remastered, despite being a first-party Sony game. It's interesting. Anyways, those are just a little interesting tidbits. I'm just looking through the wiki that stood out to me. Also, Jack, I want to ask you this: do you believe that the course of this game, because technically speaking, the game takes place in one whole day, does that seem a lot more feasible to you than, let's say, in all the Batman Arkham games where they all take place in one night, everything that happens?
Yeah, my favorite part is him being in an Arkham Knight, where he has to basically calm down a whole city, unriot the whole city. He's like, oh yeah, I did it in one night. Like, what? What do you mean you got every single Riddler trophy along the way, beat every single bad guy, took them to the GCPD, and then said, yeah, I'm done.
And then
speed run.
And then do the Operation Nightfall. Yep, all in one night. GG's. GG's, Commissioner Gordon. Yeah, so the whole game technically taking place during one 24-hour period, a lot more feasible, especially since if you're good at the game, or if you're at least very familiar with it, you can beat it in under 5 hours.
Yep.
So, I can definitely buy that. And I think actually, unless there is a specific segment that you haven't mentioned yet, you want to bring up, I feel ready to talk about the conclusion of the game.
Okay, that was actually going to be the one.
So
let's go ahead.
All right. So the game does have a conclusion. Once you do the final platforming challenge, surprisingly, I think the game gives you a reprieve, and you get a cutscene of the prince completing the task of restoring the sands of time back into the hourglass, but with a heavy cost. Because on his journey there, unfortunately, our dearest Farah, our beloved princess, dies. And this grieves the prince very much so, but he completes the mission. And in a twist of fate, he puts the dagger in the Sands of Time's Returns. And guess what? Everything you just did in the game is been undue, because now we're going back in time to the whole beginning of the game. But not exactly the same beginning that the game started off as. No, here is the big twist of the game. That is that the game, you complete the task and you end up going back in time to, you could say, an alternate timeline where the prince already has a dagger of time in his possession before he even takes it from the Maharaja's palace. And from there, and he's accumulated all the knowledge of the events of the game. And he sneaks off to find Farah in her royal chamber. And I think it's actually kind of one of the best reveals of the game. And it turns out that all this time, because the game is contextualized, that the prince is telling you as it's a story. Well, it turns out that the story that he's telling it to is indeed Farah in an alternate timeline before the events of the game properly starts. And so, and I thought, you know what? Clever twist. Actually clever time travel twist. And all of that kind of cool and uniqueness is soon thrown out the window as you enter the final boss fight of the game. And Jack, go ahead, talk about the final boss fight of the game.
First of all, I want to point out the implications of the storytelling, where the parts where you die and he goes, no, that's not how it goes. Because it's like, imagine him telling his story, like, and then there was 4 of these guys. They were going all around us. One was beating you up, and then the other 3, they were all ganging up on me, and then one stabbed me in the back and I died. Is that how it went? No.
That is true. I guess if you want to big brain it, you could say that maybe he is confusing memories from a different timeline where he did die, but that's getting too deep in the woods.
Actually, no, you might be right, because remember, in some of the visions that he was having, he did die.
You're right. Oh, you're right. So literally at the end, when the prince is telling the story, you could see it as him confusing details, because he's essentially relived this adventure multiple times.
Yeah, because I remember I saw that vision where he was like, it was just at the point when you were at like these bridges where they were all broken down, and in the vision he jumps a bridge, fails the jump, and then falls off of it. But of course, and I was expecting that to be a cutscene, but when I did it, I was like, oh, there's nothing. Okay, well, continue on with the game.
Very quickly, I do have to actually point out a plot hole real quick. This is, let me see if let me find my notes real quick. No, not that. I'm sorry, folks. I'm looking through my notes. I know I wrote this down. No, damn it. Where is my notes?
You might have to type this out next time.
No. I have them all. I have them all in an orderly fashion. I'm just trying to. I just know what happens near the end of the game. Well, anyways, so okay, here it is. So this is right. This is near. Let's see. Either before, I think this is before the prison section. But do you remember when, as Farah and the prince are, are traveling, she accidentally falls down with because the ground below her gave in.
Yeah.
At that point in your head, in your mind did you go, Prince, use the dagger?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm sure there's other moments where you're like, dude, why are not you using the dagger? But that was the one that stood out to me because at no point was there any like, oh no, he can't use it because he's low on sand or it's costing him something. Which, by the way, there is no real consequences, like at least not one
Well,
that affects the prince
actually,
bodily. I don't think.
hold on. I will correct you.
Right.
So, whenever she fell off and you had to hold on to your dagger in a way where the princess is basically bleeding, she falls, dies, and at that section you continue and you're fighting the blue guards. You didn't have anything that in that uh in that dagger.
I could have sworn she fell before that, before her death, but
Even then,
maybe I actually getting that
you
confused.
weren't in a fight. You weren't in a fight at all until after that you go up again and you now had to fight the blue guards, and then you realize you don't have any sand in that to be able to rewind time.
Right. Yeah, you know what? I I I think before after the cutscene plays and you see you don't have it, yeah. It shows like, oh, okay, he couldn't have done it because he has no more sand nodes. All right. I guess I forgot about that detail and I didn't write it properly.
Although there was a point in the middle of the game where you had a vision of that. I don't know if it was supposed to be foreshadowing or if it was an alternate timeline where she fell early.
I'm sure an existence like a vision like that exists, but I do remember that I didn't see it in the vision, but nevertheless, it's a not important factor. Anyways, back to the actual ending of the game. So yeah, we're talking about Jack, the final boss, and please, I would like to hear you talk about the final boss battle against the Grand Vizier.
Just like how there was any other, I didn't. I don't know. I expected more, to be honest. I expected something grandiose, but then when I fought him, I was just like, "This is it.
I did the
This is
same.
it."
I did the same too, and you know what? I'll let our audience go through that experience. There I made it right there, 4 hours 24 minutes. We'll talk about it as you get to experience this epic final fight, in which all you're doing is just fighting his like duplicate. And he does nothing else. You just fight his duplicate. He doesn't do any other creative magic or spells or even use the sands of time himself. He's like, nah, I'm gonna do my staff combat with you.
He will betray you.
Yeah, just bonk, bonk, bonk.
Yep. Oh, did you ever get good at the countering?
Oh, this one I didn't. I cheesed it.
Oh, how'd you cheese it?
What I told you is no story.
I just vaulted him. Just climbed him.
I didn't vault because his attacks are very telegraphed. I just countered it.
No, that took too long. I just for me that took too long. For how simple this fight was, that took too long. So I just climbed over him, stabbed him from the back, climbed over him again, stabbed him from the back. Did that like continuously. Because keep in mind, that little animation of you climbing them and then stabbing them does double damage.
It does, and which is why for majority of the game it's like a go-to strategy against almost all enemies. Now, again, you see he's fighting another illusion of the Grand Vizier a second time. Pretty much you do this a complete total of 3 times, and then, then you win against him. But this is, after everything, this is the final boss. And yeah, it's hard to not feel disappointed and go, really? Or this, after such a big revelation and the journey you go through is like, it all comes down to this. This might as well be a cutscene that would have been more satisfying.
Did you really think you could defeat
It looks so goofy with me constantly climbing him because they just kept changing the camera angles, and I just kept smacking him in the back.
Now,
And he would try to hit me, but like it would technically miss because I was already behind him.
Now, I actually want to jump ahead to like near the end of the fight. So once you actually defeat his 3rd duplicate, and you trigger the final cutscene, you're about to do the finishing blow, and he says some words. I'm about to say you right now at the 4 hour 28 minute mark.
wish me to communicate to the princess before I kill her? Words of love, perhaps?
So I'm gonna pause it right there. Now, hear what the Grand Vizier said. He goes, "Are there any last words you wish to communicate with the princess?" And I was thinking back to the that sequence in the tomb, and like that very personal information that she shared with him about what her a word that her mother taught her. That I'm trying to remember how it's pronounced. The Loloqui.
Likitaketi.
Yeah, Lily Takati. We'll say that. And I was thinking, oh, okay, so maybe instead of like, because he's defeated, there's nothing more I could do to him. So maybe I'm supposed to go to Farah, say those words, and from there gain her trust and make her believe my story. I thought that's what the game wanted me to do. Instead of that happening, I just kind of like wandered around the princess's chamber for like a few minutes, going, wait, is that not what I'm supposed to do? And so if I had this recorded, you would have seen me just going around, just trying to find, like, am I supposed to activate something or trigger something?
And he's winded. The freaking vizier just like winded. Give me a moment. Oh, thank God he left. I
Yeah.
didn't think that was gonna work.
Yeah. So again, me trying to be big brain here, thinking that's what the game wants, but I'm gonna show you what you're actually supposed to do. Right? Here we go. I'm playing right now at 4 hours, 28 minutes, and 17 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you had to do. Just actually beat him up some more.
Yep.
Oh my God. When I realized, dude, I was thinking so too much. I was like, wait a minute, maybe if I beat him up, I might get like a bad ending because, she thinks that I'm killing like the vizier to her father and, all this political stuff. No, it's literally beat up the bad guy. That's it. Don't think too hard about it. And the best part is that right after this moment, you know what? I'll show it. I'm going to show it again. I pause it at 4:28:22 and play it right now, and you get to see how this game ends.
I could have been immortal.
Then it's true. He was a traitor.
Take this. Return it to your father's treasure vault. Guard it well.
I owe you thanks. But why did you invent such a fantastic story? Do you think me a child, that I would believe such nonsense?
Oh, I forgot about this moment.
Yeah.
I said I owe you thanks.
Completely flubs it.
You presume to
Like, oh, let me restart.
The most relatable thing anyone would do with a dagger.
Such a fantastic story. Do you think me a child that I would believe
He's
such
like, oh man, I messed up the kiss. Let me go back. I'm gonna take that kiss back.
Wait. I don't even know your name.
Just call me Kakolukia.
There's the word. See, that's the word I thought you were supposed to say to her. But hey, I mean, you did eventually. And that's the end of
Yeah.
Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. You get a very cheeky ending. Back to the main scene. So all of that, with everything we have said here, from the doable but at times frustrating combat, the very entertaining, it's sometimes confusing platforming, the cheesy romance and chemistry of Farah and the Prince, and as well the I can definitely, from Jack's perspective, I will say a very flawed finale when you add to the finale platforming section with no dagger, the pathetic excuse of a boss fight, especially after such a grueling section with the prison and the fights thereafter. With all those things in mind, Jack, how do you feel about this game now that you have played it from beginning to end?
I would give it a a 7.5 out of 10.
7.5 out of 10. And put it into game terms, would you say that, if you could, would you rate this, I will translate to my section, would you say you'll give this game a either rent it or buy it at a discount?
I would say it's a rental, because since this game doesn't have, if you're a person that doesn't like to replay a game once when you beat it, there is not much to do in this game other than just go through the story.
That is true. Once you beat the game, you beat the game. I don't think there's even a difficulty. There's not a difficulty choice, is there? You just get the one.
Nope.
Yeah, so you can't even have a harder challenge. So like I said, a very straightforward game. And you know what? 7.5, Jack, that's respectable. It's a game that you play once and then you just kind of move on with your life. And actually, I actually want to check what does a Metacritic have to say about this game? Don't you want to know what Metacritic has to say? I bet you do.
Sure. I mean, maybe at that time they did respectable ratings.
Actually, you would be correct, because currently the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time has a Metacritic score from critics of a 92 out of 100, and from user reviews an 8.5. And I'm going to assume most of that comes from when the game came out. And you know what? I think that this game, in my overall score or anything, I think I would be right there. I think I'll go a little higher from a buy it at a discount, because this is also a game that established a lot of mechanics and ideas that will become refined and standardized in the years to come. And so it's good. So from a kind of almost historical perspective, it's good to go back to how a lot of modern gaming trains started. But because of that, the flaws that are there are very much more visible, and today's game standards is not as excusable. from the certain enemy types that slow down the progress of the game, the 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 combat itself that it works, but it's very unrefined and can lead to very frustrating combat sections, especially towards the end of the game. The lack of additional content that makes the game replaying, that's probably the game's biggest sin against it, is that it is a game that there's not worth replaying as either otherwise than just to replay it from time to time. And
Yep.
I think that's probably, in my viewpoint, this game's biggest knock against it. And that's probably why not a lot of people have revisited the game, because if once you already play it and it is a very straightforward game with nothing much else, why would you want to replay it? And as well, there are certain elements that while that depending on your taste, especially when it comes to the storytelling, it could be seen as very cheesy or endearing. Yeah, you can either like what the game's going for and appreciate the cheesy fantasy nature of it, but it can also be something that's like, yeah, you know what, that's too corny, and some of the dialogue is not written well and just comes off as very strange in modern times.
Yeah.
But honestly, though, think about it. If those are the biggest sins against it, then the game has held up surprisingly well. I mean, we were able to beat it from beginning to end. I mean, just that by itself. I mean, how many old games are there very hard to go back to, or you can't even finish because of the time that it was made? So, despite everything, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time has, for the most part, stand the test of time, and I am hopefully, on my own personal time, will love to explore the sequels and see what they do in the later games, especially in the creative directions they went with the series. That I am more than interested to see how that ended up to be. And of course, this is also, you can also view this as a way of, let's see the origins in a way of Assassin's Creed, and there you go. This is the origins of Assassin's Creed. Funny enough, Assassin's Creed will able to take the parkour and use it in an actual natural and logical way with its environment, compared to Prince of Persia, where it's a lot more designed like a game environment than a real environment. So, with that, we come to the end, and we hope you enjoyed our Games of the Youth. And thank you for anyone watch all the way through, and hope you were thoroughly entertained. And it's now time for us to do our announcements. So, Jack, go ahead. What do you have to announce for the rest of the week?
So for tomorrow, I'll be doing what I normally do. I'll see what game I'll be playing tomorrow. But on Wednesday, I will not be streaming. I will be taking the day off. I'll be going out with my girlfriend, since we couldn't do anything for Valentine's Day as I was working. And expect I'm gonna try to make more videos. Like on Saturday, I did just make a video and sent it off on TikTok, but I'm gonna keep making more. Go back to that while I'm also in the middle of making some more music. So that's pretty much it for this week.
Thank you, Jack. And as for me, I actually, I'm going to plan to do a live stream this Friday of what game on my solo channel. I'm not too sure, but I will have a game decided by then. It's feel like doing a stream, and of course, I am working diligently on my next unannounced major video project, so that is still in the works. And I won't mention the details yet, but I talked with Jack before this episode, and there's going to be a somewhat of a not a minor change, but it's not a big change. There's going to be a change in how the channel will be operated in the very near future. I'm just letting you guys know that now, but we'll give the full details next week, so that you understand what will be going on from then on. But until then, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate everyone watching the live show and anyone who watches the replay. And this is HAC and JAC. Sign off.
Good night, everyone.